The story you are about to hear is a compilation of documented true facts featuring historical characters, events, or places that has played a role in shaping history. Please sit back and listen as I recite this narrative for you. Lisa Marie Montgomery is an American woman from Melbourne, Kansas, who was convicted of the 2004 murder of Bobby Joe Stinnett. Montgomery killed the pregnant Stinnett before cutting Stinnett's unborn baby out from the womb and kidnapping her. Montgomery was born on February 27, 1968, and resided in Melbourne, Kansas at the time of the murder. She was raised in an abusive home where she was allegedly raped by her stepfather for many years. She sought escape mentally by drinking alcohol. When Montgomery was 14, her mother discovered the abuse but reacted by threatening her daughter with a gun. Montgomery tried to escape the situation by marrying at the age of 18, but both the first marriage and the second marriage resulted in further abuse. Montgomery had 4 children before she underwent a tubal ligation in 1990. She falsely claimed to be pregnant several times after the procedure, according to both her first and second spouses. It was speculated that Montgomery's motive was that her ex-husband knew she had undergone a tubal ligation that made her sterile and planned to reveal she was lying about being pregnant in an effort to get custody of 2 of their 4 children. She also had a history of falsely telling acquaintances that she was pregnant. Needing a baby before a fast-approaching court date, Montgomery turned her focus on Stinnett, whom she had met at dog shows. Bowman, her ex-husband, had become suspicious of her latest pregnancy claim and threatened to use it against her as he sought custody of 2 of the couple's 4 children. A custody hearing had been set for January 2005. Montgomery's mother and sister also had been telling Montgomery's husband and his parents that it was impossible for her to carry a child. As Montgomery's purported December 13, 2004 due date approached, she began conducting searches on the internet about Stinnett and researching different aspects of childbirth. The defense portrayed those efforts as evidence that she believed she was pregnant. The prosecution called them proof of premeditation. Montgomery met Stinnett online in a rat terrier chat room called Rat or Chatter. Posing as Darlene Fisher, Montgomery told Stinnett that she too was pregnant. The 2 women chatted online and exchanged emails about their pregnancies. Montgomery then arranged a meeting at Stinnett's home under the pretext of wanting to buy a rat terrier. On December 16, 2004, Montgomery drove 170 miles or 274 kilometers from her Melbourne, Kansas farmhouse to the northwest Missouri town of Skidmore and strangled the pregnant woman with a pink neon rope in her home. She cut the premature infant from her womb. Evidence showed that Stinnett was struggling with her attacker as she was being strangled. She was strangled into unconsciousness, regained consciousness while the incision was being made, struggled with her attacker, and was strangled a second time. Stinnett died of strangulation and loss of blood, the pathologist said. Stinnett was discovered by her mother, Becky Harper, in a pool of blood about an hour after the assault. Harper immediately called 911, describing the wounds inflicted upon her daughter as appearing as if her stomach had exploded. Attempts by paramedics to revive Stinnett were unsuccessful, and she was pronounced dead at St. Francis Hospital in Marysville, Missouri. Later that day, Montgomery called her husband to pick her up in the parking lot of a Long John Silver's in Topeka, Kansas, telling him she had delivered the baby earlier in the day at a nearby birthing center. The child survived the procedure and was soon brought to Melbourne, Kansas by her abductor, where the newborn was claimed by Montgomery as her own. The Montgomerys spent much of that day showing off the baby they called Abigail to people at a cafe, bank, and his parents' home in Melbourne. Authorities found them a day later at the farmhouse where she was arrested. After Montgomery's capture by the police, the day-old baby was recovered. Victoria Jo Stinnett was returned to the care of her father, Zeb Stinnett. Montgomery's criminal offense, established under the Federal Kidnapping Act, intended to make it easier for federal authorities to respond to kidnappings once they cross state lines. She was tried and convicted for kidnapping resulting in death. In Title 18, United States Code 1201, U.S. Attorney Todd Graves stated that federal jurisdiction is established when a person dies as a result of a kidnapping. Violations of this code may result in capital punishment and/or any sentence up to life imprisonment. At a pretrial hearing, a neuropsychologist testified that head injuries which she had suffered some years before could have damaged the part of the brain which controls aggression. During her trial in federal court, her defense attorneys asserted that she suffered from pseudopsoriasis, a mental condition that causes a woman to falsely believe she is pregnant and exhibits outward signs of pregnancy. During the trial, her husband Kevin Montgomery acknowledged that on 3 occasions, Lisa Montgomery told him she was pregnant at times from 2001 to 2004, saying he believed her because her abdomen became large, her periods stopped, she was cranky, she had morning sickness, she took prenatal vitamins, and her breasts became enlarged. Experts who examined Montgomery after conviction concluded that by the time of her crime, she had long been living with psychosis, bipolar disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorders. She was said to be often disassociated from reality and to have permanent brain damage from numerous beatings at the hands of her parents and spouses. The only nice things a psychologist hired by prosecutors could say about Lisa Montgomery was that she had an IQ of 120, which is in the superior range, and she scored low on a test to measure whether she was psychotic. She would have scored higher, but she didn't give her best effort. Montgomery pretended to have a memory problem and a mood disorder, including depression. On October 22, 2007, jurors found Montgomery guilty of murder. On October 26, the jury recommended a death sentence. Judge Gary A. Fenner formally gave the death sentence to Montgomery. On January 13, 2021, at 1:31 in the morning, Lisa Montgomery was pronounced dead after receiving a lethal injection at the federal prison complex in Terre Haute, Indiana. She was the 11th prisoner to receive a lethal injection there since July, when President Donald Trump, an ardent supporter of capital punishment, resumed federal executions following 17 years without one. According to witnesses, a woman standing next to Montgomery during the execution process removed the inmate's face mask and asked her if she had any last words. Montgomery responded no and said nothing else. Montgomery is the first female federal inmate to be put to death by the U.S. government in 67 years. She is just the 3rd woman to be sentenced to death row since 1972, when a U.S. Supreme Court ruling led to an overhaul of death penalty statutes across the country. Hey everyone! I just wanted to express how grateful I am that you took the time to listen to my narration. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am Twisted Mind, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Salamat!